Hi YouTube!
Welcome, I'm Rob, and this is the BIKC Middleweight Local Finals from TeamSport Sheffield. If you're unfamiliar to BIKC, the format here is a simple one. We get a 15-minute practice session, 15-minute qualifying session, and a 15-minute final. In the middleweight class, that's anyone over 75 and under 90 kilos in full gear. We had 17 drivers competing to progress to the next round. Those 17 were split into a group of 8 and a group of 9 for the practice and qualifying. And depending on where they qualified, would either end up in the A or the B final. The winner of the B final progresses to the A final, and the top 6 drivers of the A final progress to the next round, the regionals. In order to take part in this local final, you had to be in the top 24 of qualifiers at your local track. I released a video explaining how my qualification went, which you can see with the link in the top left corner now. I ended up qualifying as the 4th fastest, which I was pretty happy with. So here we are for the practice session then. Karts are randomly assigned, and I feel that I've got an average one. Kart 25. We've got the usual timing overlay on display. The number that I usually use to show my position is set to the kart number for this practice and then the qualifying session too. I'll show my position in the finals. I'm not too concerned about trying to find space in this session or how the kart feels, as I'm unlikely to get it again. I'm just focusing on making sure that I'm driving okay. The karts are randomly assigned, as I said a moment ago, but the regulations state that you shouldn't be assigned the same kart more than twice. With that in mind, having watched the performance of the karts during the lightweight finals, I'd be happy ending the session with a mid to high 58-second lap. As this is just a practice, if I'm unable to clear karts, I'm not going to back off and find space. I'll just use this as a chance to get my eye in for some racing. Knowing that I've got nothing to defend behind me, I can run a wider line into this left-hander, which allows me to get on the power a little earlier and get the run into this hairpin, being sure to leave space on the outside. The tighter line meant that I was a little slower up the ramp, so kart 21 helps me out about it and gives me a little nudge. Next up the road then is Kieran. He's a little way off yet, and he's in one of the fast cars. It's kart 11. 11 is around half a second, if not a little more, faster than the others. Kieran is about half a second, if not a little less, slower than me, ordinarily. So this is a good point then. If I can keep up with Kieran, or better still, catch and pass him, then I know I'm doing okay. I would talk about this kart feeling pretty good, nicely balanced and not exactly sluggish, but it's all kind of irrelevant until I know what I get allocated for qualifying. It looks like I'm catching up to Kieran pretty well, so I'm clearly driving okay, or he's doing badly. So Kieran is fast, clearly. I've nearly caught up, but will I get past or will I even need to? He's quite tall, so I'm guessing he weighs quite a bit more than I do. If we had the same karts, I think he'd be just over half a second slower than me. And watching this back now, I think I may have found out why. Over the course of the next few laps, watch Kieran's line, particularly through the hairpins. He's regularly a metre or two away from the apex. Now, I'm far from perfect with my apexes, but I think he'd find a fair bit of time if he focused on sorting it out. So it's taken quite a few laps, but I have now caught up. I doubt I'll find a way past, but as I said right at the start of this session, that doesn't really matter. I've got all I need from this practice. I won't back off to make space. I follow, and if an opportunity arises, I'll take it. He's had a slide and I've put a nose up the inside. He's not seen me in time though, closed off the gap. It's no issue. I know we're near the end as I've seen the marshals starting to get ready to wave some flags. I'm weaving on the straight just to create a gap rather than lifting. And the yellow flag comes out before we're able to finish the final time of the lap. A slow trundle round to cross the line for the final time. So I'm happy enough with that. I caught a similarly paced driver reasonably easily and set my mid 58 second lap in the process. So that's practice over with, it's time for the other group to go out for theirs. We then jump back in the karts for our 15 minutes of qualifying. It seems I've been allocated the quick one. Even James knows it. Let's see what I can do then. With James ahead of me, I know my best chance is to keep him in sight. On this group, there are two drivers who I always expect to be quicker than me in equal machinery, James and Dalton. James is just ahead in kart 7 and I'm not sure which kart Dalton has got, but he's behind with quite a few karts in between. So, kart 11, it's fast, has a very slight pull to the left and a rather large oil leak. The leak generally wasn't an issue, but I did notice the right rear felt quite loose at the start. I'm guessing some of the oil had dripped onto the tyre, but it cleared up pretty well though. James isn't disappearing as I'd normally expect. If anything, I'm closing up slowly. We're already faster than in practice, and I'm pretty sure I can get this car into the 57s. There it is, 57-second lap, number 1. I'm definitely closing up to James. And I found another 2/10 as well, a 57.712. The last time I drove this kart, I managed a 57.661, so I'm about on the pace. I made a few mistakes on that last lap and clipped a couple of barriers. I've got pressure building in my head, I just need to keep my focus. James has seen the two karts ahead of him fighting quite hard for track position and has decided to back off to try to make some space. I've still got space ahead of me and I'm on what feels like a decent lap. I'll keep my foot in for now. I'm glad I kept on it. That one was just 0.006 of a second slower than my session best so far. I'll give it a lap and see what happens. I don't want to back off now as I'll potentially drop back into James's clear space that he'd made. It'll be good for me, but not quite fair on him. I've not been able to do anything and James had caught up too. It's my turn to back off. James spots me doing this and equally backs off as well. I'm trying to make space ahead, but not fall too far back into James's space. Again, I'm just trying to be as fair as I can. I know I don't need to worry about James's space, that's his problem, but I don't want to annoy anyone. James started a push lap and I've waved him on through. I suspect James will back off again at some point on this lap. I don't think there is quite enough gap ahead of him. It seems Kieran has cleared the other kart. Sorry, I can't quite remember who was driving it. I'll see what James decides to do now, and I reckon we'll get past easily enough. Yep, he's done it into turn one. It's my turn now. I give it a little thought into turn two, but couldn't quite get the slingshot I needed. I'll do this slingshot instead and go wide into the left on the power early for the right hander and alongside the hairpin, being sure to try and leave some space, of course. James has decided to drop back again. I don't think James knows some of these other drivers quite as well as I do. I'm confident Kieran will stay far enough ahead that the head won't become an issue. A 57.9 with 1 lap left to go, if it stays green. I couldn't quite improve. Catching Kieran didn't help, but I don't think it was a quick one anyway. But astonishingly, that's first place out of this group. I knew I had a good chance when I saw that I had been allocated Kart 11, but not quite that good. James was of course second fastest with a 57.818 and Dalton in third, but he only managed a 58.448. So it's time to nervously watch the next group. Martin was my main concern, but he was unfortunate with kart allocation and was way off the pace. 15 minutes passed and no other driver had broken into those 57-second laps. I was on pole for the A final. Another 15 minutes passed as the B final took place with some fantastic driving. Martin recovered from 6th or 7th on the grid, all the way up to 2nd place. Unfortunately for him, Jacob in Kart 11 was about 15 seconds up the road. With Martin unable to catch, Jacob was promoted to the back of our grid for the A final. Remember, it's the top 6 that make it through to the next round at Coventry. My job is easy now. Keep James and Dalton behind me. I'm once again in Kart 11. Phew. Let's go. The lights went green, I put my foot down and I heard a backfire from the engine, and that momentary pause was enough to give James all the chance he needed. I held it on the inside, but I had to leave him space on the exit. He had had enough of his kart alongside, but I could not close the door on him. He's jumping around in his car and there is Nothing I can do but tuck in behind. I know my kart is faster, I just need to keep my head. He won't make a mistake, but I can apply pressure and maybe, just maybe, I'll get to him. The crowd for this race was amazing. I know they weren't all there to cheer me on, but in my head, they were. I said don't do anything crazy. Already I'm reminding myself it doesn't actually matter. Yes, the win would be nice, but second still gets me through. I do anything crazy and it goes wrong. I risk a penalty, which could drop me down the order. Dalton is sticking very close to me. Any mistake and he will pounce. I need to be really careful. I'm reminding myself again, I've got the quicker car, I just need to use it. James is taking his defensive lines as he knows I'm close. He's taken another defensive line into turn 2. That'll be slowing him up, but it will also slow me and push me back towards Dalton. This has been my best opportunity so far, but he's taken the inside line early on. The corner is his. I perform a couple of switchbacks and stick my nose up the inside. I'm not quite far enough alongside and we make a little bit of contact. It's not enough to cause either of us an issue at this stage though. I'm making sure to feint defensive moves too, just to let Dalton know I will offend if he tries anything. I was quicker out of that corner, but James has covered me off well. I've had a slow couple of corners, so a quick check behind just to see where Dalton is. I'm losing it now. There's a couple more stakes throughout the rest of that lap. There's a sizable gap to Dalton behind, and it looks like I'm closing again on James. I know I'm doing better. Tapping the steering wheel being an encouragement to myself. But there's that barrier once again. Dalton has closed back up again. I can't afford these mistakes. Contact! Dalton went for a very late move and it didn't work out. He's put me into a slide, but he's unable to pass. Under the rules, if he had passed from that, he'd have either had to drop back behind or take a time penalty. The red flags come out. I'm not sure if it was something else happened too, or this was just to tell Dalton off. He did end up getting a penalty, although it didn't seem to affect him in the end. Clap of the hands, that's my encouragement again. Unfortunately, James now has a huge lead. I don't see me being able to catch, although I'm going to give it a damn good try. If Dalton catches, he is either going to try again with another similar move, or will be more sensible and just sit behind instead. A quick check and I still have a good few seconds over Dalton at the moment. And I keep catching glimpses of James. He's not a million miles ahead, but I don't think I'm closing up. I know I'm not driving at my best. The pressure is getting to me. I've just told myself to concentrate once again. We've got 2 more laps left. The gap ahead does look like it's closing very, very slightly, but that gap behind is closed a lot more. We're on to the final lap and Dalton is right behind me again. I know we haven't got long left now though, so can I hold him off? And there it is, the checkered flag, that's P2. A celebration across the line, and I just about got the kart slowed in time to make turn 1. We get an apology and a bump from Dalton as we both nearly crash into James, who is also waiting for a fist bump. James goes on to complete a lap of honour with a checkered flag as we funnel into the pits to try and calm ourselves down. I give another celebratory tap of the steering wheel right as I come to a stop. The car certainly helped me on this one. Dalton was right behind for most laps as James defended well, but he also had enough pace to keep me at bay anyway. I went into this round quietly expecting that top 6 finish I had, but never did I expect to finish on podium, even with that pole position start. A huge thank you goes out to all of the staff at TeamSport Sheffield, everyone who turned up to watch, everyone who took part, and every one of you for watching my videos. I'm not confident at all for the regionals, so we'll just have to see how we get on. But for now, my journey is not over. I'll just need to revisit Coventry for some more practice. Congratulations to James, Dalton, Rich, Ben and Anne for making it through to the regional finals next month. Commiserations to everyone else who took part. There were issues with the kart. The very, very slow one got taken out of use, but other drivers were well off the pace during qualifying or their races. It is the downside of rental karting. You're relying on a cooperation for the quality of your kart for each session, but it still sucks and it still hurts.
Are you okay?
Yeah, man, that was good.
I was like, I need to send it somewhere he's not going to expect.
Yeah, you're good.
Of course, this was just the middleweight class racing. There were also the cadets, the juniors, the lightweights and heavyweights. Each class also had their issues with the karts, and there were some very disappointed people. Congratulations to anyone who made it through their respective round, whichever track you race at. The regional finals at Coventry will see the top 6 drivers from Sheffield, Leeds, Watford and Cardiff come together, with the top 3 progressing to the national finals at Warrington. The format, I believe, will be the same. The track, the karts, the marshals will all be different. We'll have to see what happens. This was an amazing night. I spent a while upstairs talking to people before finally heading down to the changing rooms, where I then spent 15 minutes or so just pacing around. The adrenaline was high and not dropping, and I'd not paced around like this since my wedding day 8 years ago. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to have my wife with me for the night. I had arrived and left by myself. But the atmosphere of the crowd, the friends and people I've met along the way to this point was just amazing. Thank you all. Thank you to every one of you for tuning in. Thank you for all your supportive comments. Just thank you. Please do one last thing for me. Give this video a thumbs up and help to spread it far and wide. As I'm recording this, we're quite close to 1,000 subscribers. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe this time. The channel is doing far better than I ever expected. I've rushed this video out as I wanted to celebrate with you all. It's out of sync, so there will be some videos coming up from Sheffield during August where I was still doing my qualifying laps. Also, other new tracks and member events that I took part in. I'll do the same again when it comes to the regionals, but I just wanted to share with you as quickly as I could. It's now Monday. I've had a busy weekend. I'm still coming down from all of this. Ultimately, I'm still lost for words. I didn't expect any of this. Thank you for joining me.